Good evening, everyone. This is again Dallas Singles Toastmasters for 5/21 of 2020. I'm Mark Schroeder, your meeting coordinator, and as usual, if you have anything that you need in the way of connectivity issues or other things, try to reach me. We have the recording started already, and I will go ahead and introduce our Toastmaster for the evening, our Toastmaster for the, actually, invocation and pledge, I guess I should do. Let me go ahead and do the quick introduction then of our agenda for everybody that would like to follow along. I'll go ahead and do that. From the main DallasSocialToastmasters.com page, you can find our agenda by first clicking on the members section on the right-hand column. That will bring up this page, which is our members public page, and you can go to flyers, announcements, and other documents. You will find agenda for 2020-514, and there is a copy of our agenda should you like to follow along or need to reference it at any point in time to find out who your timer or evaluator is. And with that, I will go ahead, stop the share, and give the meeting over to our invocation and pledge and Toastmaster, Dagan Newland. You're on mute.
Sorry. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another meeting of Dallas Social Distancing Toastmasters. And today's theme, I put down tidbits about TVs and movies. But before I get into that little piece, I just want to go over the duty holders and let's get that out of the way. And our first duty holder is going to be the timer, which is actually going to be me. So as timer, I time the prepared speeches, the table topics, and the evaluations. So in each case, when people meet their minimum time, they'll receive the green card. The green background is going to be behind me. When they meet the minimum time frame, you'll get the yellow. And when you meet the maximum time, you'll get the red. And when you get the red, you'll have 30 seconds to wrap up. So as for table topics, you'll get the green at 1 minute, yellow at 1.5, and the red at 2 minutes. And then for evaluations, you'll get the green at 2 minutes, yellow at 2.5, and the red at 3. And like you said, you get 30 seconds to wrap up once you see the red. And that's going to be my duty for timer. The next duty holder, who's going to be doing 2 duties tonight, is going to be John Vessels, who's doing the all counter and grammarian. So John, can you please explain?
Sure, I'll do that, Mr. Toastmaster. As the all counter, I'm going to listen to everybody speaking tonight and listen for crutch words or extremely long pauses. Crutch words are like things like so, things like that do not add to your speech and actually just take it away from your speech. So I will keep record of that and make counts, and at the end of the meeting, when asked by the general evaluator, I will present a review of that point. Now, I did one myself. Now, my other job tonight is a grammarian, and as a grammarian, I need to listen to everything y'all are saying and listen for good uses or bad uses of the English language. And again, I will do that and keep a report and provide a report at the end of the meeting when called on by general evaluator. The other part of the grammarian's job is to introduce the word of the day. And the word of the day is ravel. Ravel means to come untied or unentwined or become untangled. So during table topics, you're expected to use the word of the day if you want to be in the running for an award. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, John. My next duty holder is also performing 2 roles. It's going to be Nicholas, who is performing the posture monitor and vote counter. Nicholas, can you please explain your roles?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As the posture bell monitor, I'm going to be watching all the attendees to identify really just unusual or distracting postures like hands in pockets, hair flipping, foot tapping, other distracting gestures. It's obviously going to be a little bit harder since we're on the recording. But when I notice these, I'm going to ring the posture bell, or in this case, I'll just note the posture. I'm not going to ring the bell or do any distracting noises during speeches. Also going to be noting an audience's posture if it indicates they're not paying attention, and I'll report those results at the end of the meeting when called by the general evaluator. As the vote counter, I'm going to be collecting and counting all the ballots when the audience votes for the best speaker, the best table topic speaker, and the best of the big three. The big three are going to be the Toastmaster, the table topics master, and the general evaluator. I'm going to record which person wins in each category. To count votes, please send me your votes or who you think should vote in each of those categories. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, thank you, Nicholas. All right, so along with my theme, the first thing I wanted to mention is the longest running TV shows. So I'm gonna do the top 5. So number 5 is actually Family Guy. They had 18 seasons with 349 episodes. Lassie was number 4 with 19 seasons, 591 episodes. Gunsmoke was number 3 with 20 seasons, 635 episodes. Number 2 was Law and Order, SVU. They had 21 seasons with 478 episodes. So anybody guess what the number 1 longest running TV show is?
Simpsons.
The Simpsons.
Right, my background. Yes, The Simpsons. They had 31 seasons with 684 episodes. Now the most watched TV show, all of the top 30 were all Super Bowls, except for number 9, which was MASH, the Farewell Show, which had almost 106 million viewers. The number 1 most watched TV show was the Super Bowl 49 with 114.5 million viewers. The most watched TV series were actually pretty much all Olympics. Number 1 was the 2012 Summer Olympics. Number 2 was the 2016 Summer Olympics, both with 3.6 billion views. And number 3 was FIFA World Cup. And number 4 was 2008 Summer Olympics, and number 5 was 1996 Summer Olympics. All 3 of those had 3.5 billion views. Now the most watched the most watched movie, number 5 was Lord of the Rings, Return of the Kings. Number 4 was Star Wars 4, The New Hope. Number 3 was The Wizard of Oz. And number 2 was E.T. Now, can anybody guess what the most watched movie was? Number 1. Anybody want to?
Gone with the Wind.
No.
No.
Actually,
I'd say episode 5, Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back.
No, but it's actually the Titanic.
Ooh.
Oh.
All right, so I'm gonna have a little bit more of that here in a minute. But first, let's get into our prepared speeches, which is going to be Tracy Warren, and her title is Universal Appeal. And just to let you know, Mark's going to be introducing her as part of this. So you'll hear Mark speaking first, and then Tracy.
What did you say
So
the title was?
Was it Universal Appeal?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. I thought you said something.
All right. No. All right. So Universal Appeal, Tracy Warren, Universal Appeal.
First of all, this is Mark. The objective of our speech for tonight, this is a radio talk show. So this is going to be a little bit different. You have to remember in this particular case, she is not going to be seen by her audience typically. So with regard to posture and whether or not she's making good eye contact, a lot of those comments are not going to count. And she may even in fact turn off her camera so that all we hear is her voice. But her goals are to present a positive image of herself and the company or organization on a simulated radio talk show, to prepare a talk designed to build goodwill toward an organization by presenting factual information, to understand the dynamics of a successful radio talk show, and to prepare for any questions that may be asked of her during this radio interview. Again, she's got a speaking portion where she does a presentation, and then she will open it up for some questions. So as you are listening to her speech, consider some questions that you might want to ask her. Tracy, please make sure that you have your timer Dagan visible, whether you've got him in gallery view or whether you have him pinned, so that you will be able to see the timer.
Okay, hold on just a second.
Absolutely, no problem.
Okay, so for this one, can I have him say green? And then when he gets to gold, say gold. And then when he gets to red, say red versus me seeing it. Wait a minute, hold on. How do I, okay, let me.
What you need to do is go over his picture on the dots. Find pin video, and pin video will leave.
I got it, I see it. Okay, I got it now.
Okay, prepared?
Right, I'm ready.
All right, I'll go ahead and start your introduction then, Tracy.
Okay.
Today, I would like to welcome Tracy Warren as our guest speaker. Ms. Warren has been in Toastmasters a little more than 3 years, and she is an area director for a local district here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. She's going to share with us some of the many benefits of being an effective communicator and how it impacts society. Let's welcome Ms. Warren to our 56.7 FM Magic. Tracy.
Thanks for having me. We're talking about a very important organization today. It has universal appeal. It's been around 95 years. It's an international organization, and it's also a nonprofit. Most important is funds for the Foundation for Leadership. The organization that I'm talking about is Toastmasters. Toastmasters was founded by Ralph Smedley. The first meeting was held in 1905, but we didn't become an official club until 1924. As you can imagine, the world was very different in 1924 than it is today. Okay, it was distinguished clergy, politicians, and educators who benefit from being an effective communicator. It was much easier to be elected back then if you could acquire funding for your college by speaking eloquently, or to recruit members to your church, or if you were an effective communicator, if you wanted to raise funds for your particular college. So being an effective communicator was very, very important back then because the world was a lot more social than it is today. They didn't have Zoom, they didn't have YouTube, and they certainly didn't have smartphones. So Ralph observed this as being very important. He wanted to help everyday persons become more polished speakers. He could see that the foundation of being a good leader was hinged on 3 specific pillars: conducting meetings, planning programs, and working on committees. These 3 things really kind of mold our world, really who we are, and the things that help us be who we are as a society. Even today, in 2020, these are still very important factors to society. In the 70s, corporate America began to see that a lot of the employees that they were hiring lacked the ability to speak in front of groups, even lead meetings, team meetings, get up and make presentations. So they kind of heckled with the post-secondary education, and they said, hey, look, we need you to implement some type of class that will allow these students, once they finish college, to immerse into corporate America and be able to, take leadership roles and speak in front of groups. Recently, Barack Obama spoke at a college ceremony. He stated that there is a lack of leadership even today in politics, education, religion, healthcare. These are all the areas in which we're lacking leadership. So Toastmasters has played a pivotal role in changing people's lives where it matters. Warren Buffett even credits Toastmaster for him finding his wife. If it wasn't for Toastmasters, he said he wouldn't have had the nerve to get up and approach her about a date. Beauty queens even credit Toastmasters for their win. Due to the table topics questions, it allows them to answer the questions at the end of the pageant that largely determine who the winner would actually be. There's not time to list them all, of course, but the International Society of Neurological Life Coaches has discovered that effective communicators have happier lives. So if you're struggling with introducing yourself to that pretty woman on the train, or you call in sick every time you have to make a presentation at work, or maybe you have been asked to give a toast at a friend's wedding and you're wondering how to go about doing that. You want to be comfortable and you want to do a good job so you won't be embarrassed. Toastmasters can help you gain the confidence you deserve. This year, our slogan is, be a better you, baby. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much, Tracy. I'm sure our listeners have got a lot of questions. Let's take a listener's question now. Who has a question?
Tracy, I've got a question, and this is Mark Sims. Our time is so limited these days. We're all so busy. What would make Toastmasters more important than any other organization that needs our time?
Well, the thing about Toastmasters is we specifically design your Toastmaster journey for you. We have pathways that allows you to go online you can be at the park, you can be sitting watching your favorite show at your leisure, you can log on and go into Toastmasters and determine by a series of questions what is the best path for you. Not only is that a benefit, Toastmasters is very affordable. For less than $200 a year, you can gain all of the techniques and strategies that you need to become a more effective speaker and be a more confident.
What's the best way to find a club if I want to join?
I'm glad you asked that. That's an excellent question. For all of you who would like to join Toastmasters, you can go to www.toastmasters.org. You want to log in. At the top right corner, you're going to select Find a Club. It will give you the option to find clubs according to your zip code, according to your city. You can also select whether you want the days, the times, if it's a advanced club or if they have restrictions for the club. So that's your go-to spot to enroll in Toastmasters.
All right,
Hi,
we
Tracy.
have time for one more question, maybe, if it's a quick one. Does someone have a quick question?
I do. Tracy, thank you for the information. Is this only at a club level, or do we get any other kind of exposure through Toastmasters?
That's a good question. Toastmasters has something for everybody. We also have a TLI, Total Learning Institute, where you can go and learn about your specific officer roles that you hold within the club. We also have, if you are a competitive person and you like to speak and compete, we also have competitions. We have 2 competitions a year, a spring contest and a fall contest, always an international contest, which will allow you to advance to the international conference every year.
That sounds awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Tracy. Feel free to come back and join us at any time on 56.7 FM Magic.
Thank you for having me. You have a good day.
Great speech there, Tracy.
Thank you.
All right. So as timer, I guess I'll call upon myself with timing. You passed on both counts. The presentation was just a little over 3 minutes and 50 seconds, and the Q&A was 2 minutes and 34 seconds.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So if you have any comments for Tracy, please send her in a chat to Tracy if you have any comments for her. I'm sure she'll greatly appreciate that. All right, so more on my TV movie tidbits. Some of the top grossing movies. Top 5. Number 5 was The Avengers with the Infinity War. They grossed $2,048,000,000. Star Wars: The Force Awakens was $2.068 billion. Titanic was $2.149 billion, and Avatar $2.790 billion. And the top grossing movie was Avengers Endgame with $2.797 billion. Now, what about inflation? So with just that for inflation, we have a little bit of different category here. So top grossing movies adjusted for inflation, the fifth one was Avengers Endgame with $2.8 billion, Star Wars with $3 billion, Titanic with $3 billion, Avatar with $3.2 billion, and Gone with the Wind, $3.7 billion.
Oh, well,
All right, that's a couple more things. The longest cinema film. Would anybody care to guess how long the longest cinema film is?
4
30
hours.
30 years.
4 hours and 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
No,
Time. Okay.
I don't know.
Nor
but
plus.
Gettysburg was about 3.5 hours.
Kevin Costner.
No, the longest. Here, I'm going to give it to you. The name was called The Innocents. Is made in Bangladesh in 2019. 21 hours and 5 minutes. Is based on love, dreams, politics, revolution, and the aftermath of Bangladesh Liberation War. So can you imagine a movie that long? Anyway, the shortest movie. Yeah. All right. How everybody will guess what the shortest movie is? You know, that could be like a movie, animated. You know, any kind of short. You know, short film. No guesses. All right. The movie is called Fresh Guacamole. It's in 2012. It's an American animated short film at 1 minute and 41 seconds. It's the shortest film to ever be nominated for an Oscar. So that's pretty amazing. The longest 21 hours and 5 minutes, and the shortest at 1 minute and 41 seconds. So that concludes my section, and we'll move on to the table topics, which is going to be conducted by Lee King. And Lee, if after you're done with your table topics, you can go ahead and call on John, the general evaluator. And for you, Lee.
All right, so I've got a few questions. We will get started. All of my questions have to do with movies. We've got a little bit of a light crowd, so we will probably not have a ton of questions, but don't forget that you do have to speak for a minimum of 1 to 2 minutes, and you do need to use word of the day, which is rival. Question number 1. Tell us, what is your favorite movie, and why is it your favorite movie? John Vessels.
Please remember to have your timer, Dagan Newland, visible.
Pinned, yes.
I guess my favorite movie is To Kill a Mockingbird. It's an old movie, black and white, but I cannot resist it when I see it come up on TCM or any other channel. It's just a great story about, I don't know, I guess it's the 30s, maybe it's the late 20s, about a man that lives in a small Georgia town, and his 2 kids just run around in one summer, and he's an attorney and has to defend a man that was accused of rape. And it's just a really interesting story, and a lot of stuff goes on, and it's just I don't know, it just grabs me every single time I watch it. It just unravels all there in one big old piece, and it's a great story and really heartwarming, but entertaining and exciting all at the same time. Back to you, sir.
All right, thank you. Just as a reminder, the word of the day for today is ravel, not rival. For some reason, I misread that. Along with your favorite movie comes the worst movie that you've ever seen. Please tell me which movie is your worst movie and why it is your worst. Nicholas.
Thank you, Lee. Well, I have to say my favorite movie would definitely be Lord of the Rings, because I've read those books so many times I can't even count. But my least favorite movie, it's somewhat of a newer movie, but it would certainly have to be Star Wars, the second movie in the sequel trilogy. I can't even remember what it's called. I hated that movie with a passion just because they've butchered, in my opinion, they butchered the old Star Wars trilogy to a crazy amount. I mean, the way that they unraveled the ending with Luke Skywalker and Kylo Ren fighting, it was one of the lamest fight scenes I've ever seen. And don't hate me if I'm spoiling the movie if no one's seen it, but it was just an abomination of a movie. I couldn't stand the movie. I almost left in the theater just because of what they did to the old Star Wars movies, 4, 5, and 6. I even like the prequels hundreds and hundreds of times better than these movies. I hated the new one with a passion. So back to you, Mr. Tabletop Master.
They say that throughout life we tend to resemble different characters in different movies because of looks or intelligences or humor or any other number of reasons. Which leads me to my next question. Which character do you feel like most resembles your personal life? And that question will go to Mark Sims.
A historical figure comes to mind. In the movie Gettysburg, which is about the Battle of Gettysburg, there is a general named James Longstreet. Sometimes he's referred to historically as Pete Longstreet. He was a general for the Confederate side, and aside from the politics, I think he was known as a longtime and loyal subordinate to General Lee. And I've had times pondered my role in work life, and it seems like for better or worse, even though we're all supposed to strive to be great leaders, I usually function best and most effectively as a subordinate to a very effective leader. And so a time or two I've thought about that type of strange connection. Don't know why I began thinking about that. It may be because the movie Gettysburg is another one of those candidates for the longest movies ever. It was at least 3.5 hours, maybe more, and it gives a man a little bit of time to think. And so I probably cannot ravel all the reasonings behind my choice, but that is my choice. Mr. Tabletop Master.
All right. With COVID-19, all of the movie theaters have been closed down, and of course, my understanding is actually most of them are not planning on reopening until late June, early July, certainly no time soon. But I also got a survey the other day asking if I would plan on going to the Dallas Wind Symphony concert on July the 4th, or if I would not be going this year because I would feel too nervous regarding the COVID-19. Which begs the question, based on current situations and the COVID-19, when do you feel like most likely you will return to the movie theater? That question goes to Indu. Indu, I think you're on mute. Oh.
Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Yes. When do you feel that you will most likely return to the movie theater, given the COVID-19 pandemic?
Thank you for the question. It is a bit of a tricky situation. I don't feel confident to go out anymore, especially to the movie theaters. But I would definitely go maybe in a couple of months. Given that we have so many comforts around us, and especially with channels like Netflix, Hulu, and all other streaming services, you get movies straight up at the comfort of your home, on your couch. So I would prefer the movie experience that I would get at home. But if it is to go to the theaters, I think it would definitely not be anytime this year.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And we have one guest this evening. Would our guest like to try a table topic question this evening? Amy?
Yes. So the same questions. I have
I've got
to
one for you,
Okay.
actually. So your question is, what was your favorite TV show that has canceled or is no longer running?
Okay. So basic. Okay. So basically, it's a local show. At In one of our channels it shows, so basically it's kind of a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but it's an Indian version of that. So that particular show, currently due to the COVID-19, there is no more movie shooting going on, they are not shooting any new episodes for it because of the COVID-19. So that's why currently I'm missing that show to be watched for, like the new seasons or the new episodes are not coming. So that is something currently maybe more I'm missing towards.
Okay. All right, at this time, I will call on the timer. Did all of our speakers this evening qualify on time? You're on mute.
All right, so yeah, sorry. All speakers three of them barely qualified, but yes, all of them qualified.
All right. And could I ask for a grammarian's report, please?
I know that I, Nicholas, and Mark Sims used the word of the day. I didn't remember hearing Indo or Ami use the word of the day, rabble.
I can't remember if they did or not. Indu or Ami, do y'all remember if you used the word of the day?
No, I didn't use.
Okay, you did not.
I did not use.
Okay, so please vote between either John Vessels, Nicholas, or Mark Sims for the best table topic speaker for this evening. And I'll now hand the meeting over to our general evaluator for this evening.
A quick reminder, you will be sending those votes to Nicholas Elwood.
Yes, please send your votes to Nicholas Elwood.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'm your GE tonight, John Vessels. In case you didn't know, you didn't see my name at the bottom of my picture. Okay. The purpose of the evaluation portion of the meeting is to do that, evaluate it. Our goals of improvement in our abilities to speak in public speaking is relevant and is necessary to have evaluation so we know whether we're improving and what we need to improve on and how we can improve. So that's going to be my portion of the night. I'm going to do a general evaluation of the meeting. I'll introduce the duty holders to relay their observations during the meeting. And also to present our evaluator for Tracy Warren's speech, which is Mark Schroeder. And Mark, if you're ready, let's start with you. Will you please do your evaluation for Tracy?
Thank you, John. I'd be very happy to. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, and especially for tonight, Tracy, our guest speaker. This was an unusual speech for us in a couple of ways. First of all, it's from one of the legacy manuals, and it is entitled The Radio Talk Show because it is something that is, if we were doing this live in a room, we put both the interviewer and you at a table, and for all practical purposes, we're really just supposed to hear you, and what happens, what we see is not important because we would not see anything. So it is a very, very different speech, and it relies much more heavily on language than anything else, language and voice than anything else. So I'm going to do kind of a 3-2-1, except I think it's actually going to be closer almost to a 4-1-1 because I found a lot of things that I really liked. I want to start with your voice. You used your voice, I thought, very, very effectively. There was a lot of inflection in your voice and a lot of enthusiasm in your voice, probably more than I think you might have used if you had just been live and been able to do some of that with your face. You did come across as an expert. You gave us an awful lot of history on the club, how the club was founded, a lot of the parts as the club went through its history. And you did establish yourself as a very strong expert on Toastmasters in the process. And I really liked, the third point was I really liked all of the testimonials that you had. You had some really strong testimonials and examples where people had benefited from Toastmasters and how they had benefited from the Toastmasters experience. I think there was something in what you provided, something a little bit for everybody, something unique for everybody that everybody could relate to, and that there's at least something that everybody would consider important. Finally, with regard to the Q&A, in each and every case, you thanked the speaker for their question, or the person who had asked the question for their question, which is a really good thing. And in many cases, you reiterated the question so that we would understand what the question in case somebody didn't hear it, which on a radio show, hopefully they did, but you never know. Sometimes if the call ends, it would be bad. With regard to things to work on, I didn't see a whole heck of a lot, to be honest. I thought you did a wonderful job. The one thing that I might have wanted to see, I didn't see quite enough about how Toastmasters have benefited you personally. That I would have liked to see maybe perhaps more of a personal testimony of how you have benefited from it, because I think that would have very much energized you going through the benefits as you saw them. So I thought that that might extend the energy that you had even more. I did question one thing, and I don't know, it's only because I know your normal speaking style. The style tonight seemed a little over the top, just a little bit. If I didn't know you or know what you were, how you normally spoke, I wouldn't have thought that at all. And it was not over the top from a radio standpoint, but it was a little bit more than average, than we're used to for you. And I'm sure you were emphasizing it. But finally, overall, the most important thing is how effective was the speech. And I thought it was very effective. It made me want to learn more. It kept my interest throughout all of it. And you caught my ear when you couldn't catch my eye.
Okay, thank you. I was going to give a plug to Dallas Socials, but I thought that would have been too over the top.
Never, never. All right. Thank you, Mark. There, I got in Dagan, did Mark qualify on time?
Yes, Mark qualified on time.
Okay, thank you. So everybody, if you have any comments, we don't need to vote since we only have the one evaluator, but if you have any comments you'd like to give to Mark Schroeder, please send a chat to him directly and let him know what you thought about his speech, his evaluation speech. Mark, one thing I have to say, you kept saying what I'd like to have seen or what I wanted to see. It's like you could only hear or remember.
If I could have seen anything, yes.
Yes.
That's right. That's funny. That's because I'm 70% visually oriented. Yep.
Exactly. And it's so what we're used to. I mean, it's just, we say see because that's what we do in Toastmasters. So anyway, thank you very much. Now, I'd like to move on to our duty holders, and I'll go ahead and start with myself if you don't mind, Nicholas, since I have a couple of duty holder roles. And my first is all counter. Not a whole bunch, but Dagan, you did have 5 ahs. You had 1 so. Nicholas, I heard 1 ah out of you. Mark Schroeder, I heard out of you when you were doing your evaluation. Shocking. Shocking. Other than that, I think everybody did a really good job as far as all countering. I won't say anything about Ami had a little bit of a long pause thinking about table topics, but considering this is the first time he's ever done one, hey, he got in there and he did find an answer and he got it going there. So we're all good. The next thing is the grammarian evaluation. Not anything extraordinary, nothing bad though either. I thought everybody did a good job last night as far as grammar goes. So I spoke too much. So from a grammarian point of view, I thought our grammar was good this evening, but nothing else is for more. Now I'd like to move on.
John, your volume's going out.
1 second, I've had to put John on mute for just a second. He was causing the additional feedback. I'll give you a second. Are you ready, John?
He looks like he's swapping out his earbuds.
Okay, the feedback is gone. You're back on, John.
All right, cool. So if I can hear me now, okay?
Yeah, I think you're
Can you hear me now?
losing the batteries, I think.
Yeah. So to where I left off, I'm going to move to our next duty holder for this evening, which was Nicholas. And Nicholas was our posture monitor tonight. So Nicholas, can you give us your report, sir?
Thanks, John. Not anything out of the ordinary in terms of posture. A few, just a quick note. There were, besides Tracy's speech, which didn't need video to see. There, Indu and our guest just didn't have a video for us to see, but it was no real issue at all. Mark, I noticed that you may have been hunched over a little bit, just, kind of very close to the screen. But besides that, very good table topic speech, and didn't notice anything else out of the ordinary. I may have been kind of leaned back a little bit trying to get in the camera too. So besides that, everything was relatively fine on posture. Back to you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Now, just a general evaluation of the meeting tonight. I thought our topic was fun and entertaining considering we're in COVID and we're living on movies. If it wasn't for the free HBO, Cinemax, Showtime weekends that we've been going through, it'd been a lot rough on all of us. So we've spent a lot of money on pay-per-views. But movies is a big part of the American life, so it's always fun to talk about them. Now, that portion of the meeting went well. Our table topics went well this evening. It's good that we had 5 table topics to fill in some of the time because we didn't have but the one speaker, and also we managed to get everybody to be able to talk tonight, even our guest. So that was a very good thing. All in all, we started pretty much on time. We were like 1 or 2 minutes late, but considering we're in the Zoom world and we have to prepare for recording and everything, we're just on time as far as I'm concerned. I think our Zoom meetings and tonight's Zoom meeting went exceptionally well. Not a lot of difficulties, so everything is going smoother and smoother. We'll have this down pat about the time we can start going live again. So all in all, I think we did a great job tonight, or everybody did a great job. So I'd like to now call for a vote for the best of the big 3. Your big 3 tonight are going to be your Toastmaster, Dagan Newland, our Table Topics Master, Lee King, or myself as General Evaluator. And if you would, go ahead and make your selection and send that vote to Nicholas, our vote counter, and he'll give us our results in just a few moments. So now if anybody has no other comments, I'm going to move us on to a business portion of our meeting. And that is our current president, Lee King. Mr. King.
Good evening, everybody. Not a whole lot of business to really discuss, but first and foremost, I do want to introduce our guests. So if you would please share with us how you found us and what you thought about our meeting. We'll start with Tracy Warren.
I visited the club several times. I was there. I'm glad the pathways were alive for you guys. I was also there for the open house when Linda Green was the area director. So I visited the club a number of times.
Okay, and what did you think about the meeting?
Tonight's meeting?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I enjoyed it. You have a pretty good amount of people. Do you normally have more or less people?
It kind of depends. I think we're missing one or two people that are usually here.
I thought everybody was engaging. Everybody participated, and it didn't seem as though they were holding anything back. Everybody made, I think, strong contributions to the club. And I enjoyed being here tonight, and thank you for having me and allowing me to give a speech tonight.
All right, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next guest for this evening is Ami. Ami, will you please share your thoughts on the meeting? Tell us how you found us.
Yep. So hi, this is Amaya. So basically, yesterday I talked with Mark also. I found it on the website itself, and something which I wanted to join since long time, but due to time restrictions, I was not able to join. But this is a new experience for me. It's first time I'm attending something like this, a Toastmaster. This is so basically the one thing, primary reason of being a part of this or getting involved into this is something like I get nervous while public speaking, my grammatical skills, and there are many other reasons in the communication which I lack for, and in the confidence. So that's why I wanted to be a part and at least get introduced with Toastmasters, so that I can get involved in and be a member for it. So it was a nice experience for me.
All right, great. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yep.
Our next order of business is to just discuss the officer roles. We will have officer election next week. And we had a very brief officer meeting last week after the meeting. And for the most part, it looks like everybody is interested in retaining their roles, except Mark Sims has expressed interest in taking over as president, and I had mentioned I would be willing to take VP of membership, which means that what we really will be needing at this point will be a sergeant at arms. So if there is anybody that's interested in sergeant at arms or any other role, please let me know over this next week. If you can think of anybody.
I nominate Nicholas
for
Sergeant at Arms.
Nicholas?
Oh, I don't know yet. Let me think about it.
Okay, well, let me know if you can over the next week. I'll touch base with you.
Thank you, Dagan.
And if you have any questions or what's involved, you can ask a lot of us. Most of us have done it at least once in our life.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not hard. Basically, well, right now while we're on Zoom call, there's not really much that you would have to
set up the virtual room. Put cups on everybody's tables.
Yeah, pretty much. And then when we do begin meeting at Ozona again, then it would be going up, getting the box of stuff, and then putting cups on the tables and hanging the flag and putting it away. That's pretty much it. So
okay.
It's an honor, Nicholas. You get to go into the storeroom at Azona's.
Yeah.
So you're the man.
Let's get it.
Okay. All right, well, sounds good. So unless I hear otherwise, I'm not expecting any contested race at that point. The only difference is I'll just run through who expressed interest and we'll vote and go from there. The other vote that we will be having next week will be on when to return to Ozona. Now, I had mentioned that different color-coded system that Dallas County is using, and I sent that out to the officers. I did forget to send that out to the rest of the meeting, the rest of the group, but I think Indu and Nicholas would be the only ones here that are not officers, perhaps. At any rate, so a couple of people were thinking that perhaps we'd want to wait until the county goes to the green level before we return. And just so you all know, right now we are in red. There's red, orange, yellow, green. And in order to progress from red to orange, we'd have to have 14 consecutive days of declining numbers. If the numbers of COVID cases go up, then the clock starts over again. So there is that, or there is the option of, saying that we will continue virtual for the month of June and regroup towards the end of June to decide what we want to do for the month of July. So I will send that out again to everybody, but please give that some thought as far as when you would want to return to Ozona. We would need to vote on that because next week is the last week of June. Of May. So we will need to let Ozona know prior to that if we are returning or if we're needing more time to meet on Zoom. At this time, I don't know. Indu's division governor, perhaps she would know. Indu, have you heard of any clubs that have actually made any plans at all for returning to face-to-face meetings at this point in your division?
No meetings are being held face-to-face as of now. And we have actually not even discussed returning back to face-to-face meetings. But if it so happens, I will definitely keep you guys updated.
Okay. I hadn't heard anything either. I'm assuming that things are going to stay virtual for probably most of the summer, if not the whole summer. But
yeah, some clubs are planning to just start meeting face-to-face next year. It's mainly based on what everybody is comfortable, and it's like a decision taken together. Corporate clubs might start meeting as soon as they get back to office, but again, that's something that they'll get to know from their offices. So
yeah.
Well, Mark Schroeder
might have to think about at least is there any such thing that we could do that's a hybrid where we, if there are some people that feel comfortable in person and some people that don't, do we have any way of still doing a Zoom meeting and connecting both groups? I suppose that's another possibility. That's dependent upon a lot of other things, including the bandwidth to be able to broadcast out of those zonas.
Well, what has Ozona said about us even coming back too? Because they're still at a restriction.
So Ozona's has basically, I did contact Ozona's. I thought I sent that out to at least the officers. Maybe I did not, but Ozona's basically considers themselves to be back up and running at the 25% level. They do not need the room that we have to make the 25% level be profitable because they've got the outside. So between the inside at 25% and the outside that doesn't really have the restriction, but does have the 6-foot distancing, they think they've got, quote, more than enough space, unquote. Because I asked them, the questions that I asked were things like, the one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to have 5 people come into that room and then have other people be turned around because suddenly we're over the 25% rule or something like that. We would want to make sure that we'd have the ability to have however many people we need in that meeting and not turn people away. We've got to have people that are comfortable, et cetera. And they did not think that they were going to need to use that room for anything else. They are willing to welcome us back at any time we're comfortable. I agree. I certainly am not comfortable going back as long as we're still in red. I mean, the clear definition of red is stay safe, stay home, done. So I'm not comfortable while red. I don't know if I would be comfortable with yellow. So, green is certainly the best option if we get there, but it's not clear how easily we will get there. But Ozona's is willing to welcome us back and believes that there's enough space for us in that room and they won't need it otherwise. I think there's also the issue that we haven't had to address and we may have to address If we intend to stay away for months and months and months, will they try to rent the room out from underneath us to some other party? At the moment, I don't think that that's really a risk, because I don't think they could put a group of 50 people in there that would feel safe doing it. But at some point, we do have a risk.
Yes.
I don't feel like there's any risk for at least the month of June.
No, I don't think the risk will be imminent. But if we decided that we didn't want to go back until January, who knows?
Yeah, that would
change if we say that far.
But I feel like I feel like even through the summer, I don't think that at this point that's going to be an issue.
I would be hard pressed to think that they would find a group that would take the room during summer under the current rules. I'd be surprised. It's possible, but I would be surprised.
Yeah. So, but right now, I think still they're saying no gatherings over, I believe it's 25 or something. So even in that large room, I don't think they can put more than 20 people in there right now.
Well, I don't know if that's true. If that whole room, if you looked at the question is whether they count us as a gathering, because we're not all at one table. We don't have to all be at one table. We can put every individual 6 feet apart from every other individual, as large as that room is.
Right. No, but that's what I'm saying. Is I'm not sure if that's considered a gathering. You know.
Yeah,
I get the corner booth.
Raise that explicit question with them, because at the time I was more worried about whether they even needed the room and whether or not we'd have people turned away because of the 25% rule. But the number of people that we're putting in that room, I don't think they'd have a problem with, and most of the time we're under 25.
Sure.
All right. Does anybody else have anything else they would like to add? All right. Well, let's hear from our vote timer, our vote counter on who won.
Thanks, Lee. So, obviously, the speaker, Tracy, won.
Mm-hmm.
For the table topic speaker, Mark Sims won.
Thank you.
I voted for myself, but it can't be a tie. So, Mark, you win. John won and best of the big three was John Vessels as the general evaluator.
All right. Kudos to all.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, the meeting is adjourned. You'll have a good evening.
All right. I'm going to be stopping the
All right.
meeting
Thank
recording.
you.